I'm Luke George from By George, and we have today in our presence for our interview is Brad Cuff from PWC. Welcome, Brad.
Thank you, Luke.
This week you had some exciting news. Could you share that with us?
Yeah, after being at PWC for 3 years, I was asked to join the partnership. So, fantastic opportunity.
Wow, that is sensational. It's been a long road. So, was that? How did you feel when you received the phone call?
Yeah, really excited. It is a long journey. Partnership at PWC is, at any of the big four firms, is actually quite a difficult thing to get to, and you have to be very well rounded in all areas to get there. So, I think anxious, nervous, but almost a sense of I've got there, I've achieved, but relief.
Fantastic. Now, was this a goal that you had set yourself at any time?
Yeah, it was. I think after being in Perth for about 20 years and moving across a number of different industries, I really did look at what my next 15, 20 years of my career would look like. And, getting into a well-branded organisation where I was able to not only enjoy my work but build a team, I realised that getting to partner or becoming a partner within the firm was actually something worth achieving and would be rewarding. So it was a goal I actually set. I really set the goal quite anxiously about 12 months ago. Shared it with some friends, shared it with people that I could be held accountable with, and really focused on achieving it.
Fantastic, fantastic. Well, you've certainly got there and proved that what you can do, where you focus on grows, I suppose.
Correct.
Would that be correct? Yeah. Now, we see success. Would you call this a bit of a success for the Brad Cuff story?
I think it is. Success is one of those strange things that it is very difficult to articulate, and it is very different to each person. And I think when I did get the news and I shared it, one of my friends shared with me a picture of a man standing on the top of a mountain with his hands in the air. And I was reflecting on that picture and thought, is that what success means for me? But I've also had a friend who's recently climbed Mount Everest. And he had that picture of him standing on the top of Mount Everest. But, that took him 3 years. And in that 3 years, he dedicated himself to the single cause. We lost track of him for 3 years. His family had to commit to it. His work was impacted. His relationships were impacted. But he achieved a single goal. To me, that is not success. To me, success is how do I achieve my goals but keep balanced across all of them? It's not dedicating to one thing. It's actually ensuring that you have goals in focus, but you're balancing all elements of life together. And for me, success is not achieving partnership at all cost. It's actually achieving partnership, but ensuring that my friends, my relationships intact, my family's intact, my health's intact, and that balance.
Fantastic. So when you Google success, you have these pictures of people on mountains and stepping up, and we've also got the steps moving towards the trophy, and we've got the long road going forward. How would you put it as an image, considering of what you just said then? What sort of image would you have?
Yeah, I think I don't think it would be. If I look at what I've done to achieve success, it's not a single path that goes up.
Yeah,
it's actually a cyclic circle of repeated mistakes.
Yeah.
And it's actually something where you never achieve success on the first path.
Yes.
You almost have to go around the mountain a few times and actually do a few things and make quite a few mistakes.
Sort of multiple paths. I'm sort of seeing a picture there, and you're making mistakes, sort of falling down. So there needs to be a bit of a graph up and down, and then eventually you can move towards where you want to go. So the trophy still sits at the top, but it's not one path, is what I'm hearing.
No, and I think it's also a level of maturity. Your background, your culture, your upbringing will usually define what you perceive to be success. So growing up in a very focused society where success to me was defined as to be an engineer, and to be successful at that career. But I had to mature as to what was my definition of success. What does that mean? And for me, if I look at what I believe I've achieved in life, it's a family around me.
Absolutely.
It's close relationships that I can that trust me and I can trust. It's an environment where I feel that I'm balanced around work and doing things I enjoy. So I've had to redefine my success criteria and then refocus how I achieve those.
Fantastic. Now, I'd like to draw our attention to Brad Cuff, the brand. Now, how would Brad Cuff see his brand, or more importantly, how he would like other people to see the brand that Brad Cuff has built?
So I think it's a very interesting concept, and I don't think I really realized that I was building a brand or personal brand until probably 10 years into, I guess, my career. But on reflection, I realized that there were constantly things I was putting in place that was looking to define who I was. I think in the earlier times of my career, it was really around trying to build a brand that I perceived people wanted to see. Whereas actually, as I then matured, it was actually, well, what is the brand that defines how I want to be perceived based on the depth of who I am? So I guess to answer the question firstly is, do I think brand is important? Extremely important. Do I think personal brand is important? Extremely important. What defines my brand? Was that the question?
Yeah, that's about right. Well, it's how you'd like to see your brand, how you'd like other people to see you. Yeah. What sort of qualities? So when we see the swish, we all say, wow, that's me, athletic and fast and moving. When they see the Brad Cuff brand, what sort of images or thoughts or emotions you would like to see people
so for me,
invoked?
Yeah, I would think inspirational, trustworthy, focused, and I would like them to see me as reliable, but I don't think that that's what my brand states.
So you notice that a couple of those things you just said there, we can nearly say they're sort of values and beliefs. Those first couple that you said, inspirational, you said reliable, and moving towards. But do you hold those as your values that you want other people to see?
Yes.
Is that the sort of way you look at it?
Yeah. I think I look at, I reflect on what keeps me going, what wakes me up in the morning.
Yeah.
What do I enjoy doing and why do I enjoy it? And I think being inspirational drives my behavior and allows me to enjoy what I'm doing. So I'm not just there I want to be inspirational because I think it's good for my work or it's good for making money or that's because I think people want me to do. I do it because that's actually where I come back and I feel like I've created value and enjoy what I'm doing.
Fantastic. So you, interesting that you go about inspirational and people. You know a lot of people. You've got many networks. How important are these networks and who you associate? So with there's a saying that says you're the average of the 5 people that you hang around with, basically. Do you feel that's true?
Yeah, I think it's critically true. I think if I look at my career and I reflect on it, it's not the roles I've had, it's not the titles I've achieved, it's not the salaries I've earned, but it's the people I've associated with that have defined my successes and my failures. And I think it's critical to understand that the people you hang around with, you do tend to become or be influenced by. And I've seen, over the last 4 or 5 years, I've actually found myself in an environment where I was around people that weren't sharing my values, that weren't sharing, who I believed was the right thing to do. And it actually dragged me down. I had to physically change the way I did that. I actually had to get rid of some friends, get rid of some connections, discard, and sit down and go, who do I think I can associate with? And physically had to go out and actually create those connections. So I think it's critically important.
Critically important. Now, I would go so far to say is that you're quite a connector.
Yeah.
You're someone that actually spends time in connecting 2, 3 groups. PWC, you've got a lot of clients that you move together. How do you do that, Brad? And can everybody do that, or is it a special skill?
So 2 questions. I think, can everyone do it? I think everyone has an ability to do it. Some people it comes very naturally to.
Mm-hmm.
Some people will do it without knowing.
Mm-hmm.
Some people it doesn't come naturally, but they can achieve it. Other people it doesn't come naturally and have to learn to do it. So can everyone achieve it? Do it? Yes, I think so. For me, it definitely comes naturally, and I think I do it well because 1, I enjoy it, but also 2, my motivations are pure in doing it. So a lot of times I'll connect people because I'll meet somebody and I'll go, wow, Luke's got a great skill in that. Oh, wow, Zach would really benefit from that. I should connect Luke and Zach because I think, there could be something there. So I actually go to an effort to connect them, not for no gain of myself, but for gain of, I think that could really work. And I think that creates a honesty in those connections and in those relationships. I think if I was doing it for work purposes only and specifically to get a gain, I don't believe that they would be as successful. You have to be honest with those connections, and I think your motivation has to be pure.
Yeah. So you use the word there. It's sort of more natural for you to be able to do it. But has there been a time, or can you share us a time where you've actually connected 2 people for your pure reasons, and then the outcomes later on, there was quite an opportunity that rose from that, but initially it wasn't sitting there, but then over a period of time, something else big happened from it, so you might have met someone else. Can you think of something somewhere offhand where you just had put 2 people together, and because of that, other things happened? Sort of. Yeah,
no, absolutely.
I think, I know you've got many.
There are many,
but just one that comes to mind.
No, there are. I think these 2 students, Ian and Andrew, and Ian was actually starting his own business. Andrew had a skill, but didn't have the ability to sell work, had the ability to deliver it, and I don't think initially I thought they would actually work together or have anything, but I did have this inkling or feeling that I should connect these 2. And I did connect them. They actually didn't connect naturally. I almost had to kind of force the connection, 3 or 4 times, taking them out, kind of bash them together, and then I left it, walked away from it. And probably took about 12 months. But 12 months later, Ian phoned me and said, "Oh, you won't believe it, but Andrew and I kind of got on. I've got a bit of work. He's working for me. We've actually started a business, and it's actually going really well."
Fantastic, fantastic.
And that's one of those more unnatural connections.
Yes.
But I would say that I've been amazed that some of the connections that I've made has actually turned into lifelong friends.
Yes.
Or even turned into career opportunities for both of them.
Yes.
And more often than not, they've been beneficial to both parties.
Yeah. And just thinking while you were talking there, is you've got quite a reputation, as in, you're very welcoming, you're very open, and so both parties that you're connecting actually take on board that reputation. It's not all Brad, good sort of person, he's solid, he's trustworthy, and that's why they connect through you, because you are the person, because of your reputation. Would that be why it's easier to connect 2 people? Because you do need that centre point to have a good brand, to have a reputation. So it's just, you've got to have a build like that. It just doesn't.
Yeah, I think the skill of I think the success of being a connector is the trust that you have to build in those relationships. So, Luke, you trust me, we know each other. If I immediately introduce you to somebody else and I say, "Hey, Luke, here's Bob. Bob's a really good guy," you're not going to take time to work out whether Bob's a good guy. You're actually going to validate that through me.
So you're shortcutting that long time. When we first meet too, when people first meet, they have to do that sort of that dance, that courting.
Yeah.
And that takes a period of time, whereas by being introduced by someone we both trust, that's pretty well all out. That's all done and dusted. We can get straight to the core of where we need to move forward.
Well, two things I actually focus on, and this is actually something that I actually think through very, very carefully. If I do want to connect 2 people, I do 2 things. One is I work out how to credentialize that connection through me. But 2, absolutely look to find the common interest. Mm-hmm. Humans connect quicker when they have a common interest. And I will sit and really work that through and try and understand it. And particularly sometimes when you're connecting two different styles. If you're connecting two similar styles, it's easy because styles populate. But if you're connecting two very different styles, you have to find a common interest that they work at. So you'll find very often when I connect two people, the first introduction will be, Luke, here's Rick. By the way, you won't believe it, but Luke's completely into mountain biking. Rick, you were telling me you're really interested, but you don't know how to get started. Boom, right there, you've seen conversations go for hours. Now the reason you're connecting them may be completely unrelated to mountain biking, but that allows two people to get to know each other at a common interest and a common level, and they're also credentialized because they're feeling comfortable because they've had a good, an introduction, and also generally they're feeling not threatened because, I don't know if Luke, where you work, where you live. I've no idea about your status in society, but I know that we've got a common interest.
Sure. Now, people would say LinkedIn is a big connector, and there's various opinions about that. But I notice on your LinkedIn profile that you do some sharing of your blogs, you post, you write an article every now and then, and it seems to be fairly consistent. Do you make that as a general effort? Do you set aside time to look at your LinkedIn connections? How do you find that in your busy lifestyle, and is that something that you consciously do to keep your brand alive?
So I would say LinkedIn is less about my personal brand and more about my work brand. So it's probably more about two things. One is establishing the PWC brand and using the PWC brand, and establishing what I feel is important in work and in society. So I don't use LinkedIn for a personal branding, and I don't use LinkedIn to connect to people. I definitely do use it to for what I believe LinkedIn's purpose is, which is around establishing who you are in the work world. So if somebody looks at my LinkedIn profile, I think they will see Brad, the partner at PWC, and he's good at operational technology and mining. But when they meet me, I would think they would probably see, Brad's actually quite interested he's quite socially minded, he's really interested in family, but I don't think they'll glean that from a LinkedIn profile.
Okay.
But I do think having a social profile is very important, and whatever you put on any media, you really need to think through critically.
Yeah. So what you're describing there is to separate your social media presence. So LinkedIn professional, then you've obviously got your Facebooks and Instagram, but it doesn't matter where you post. Critically think about that, because each one of those platforms is about your brand.
It's absolutely about your brand. And one reflection that I have is I've got a lot of friends on all of those platforms and connections on all of those platforms. And what I do get amazed is I will bump into someone that I haven't seen for 2 or 3 years, and they'll immediately just start talking about my life. The detail of everything that's going on. And it amazes me that a lot of people look at it and see it constantly all the time. And I think it's important. But I think you can also use it to establish and I'm not going to say a false brand, but you can use it to reinforce your brand of who you are.
So I just want to touch on that false brand, authenticity.
Yeah.
Now, I believe it's 100%. Whatever you do, it's got to be authentic, because if you get caught out, you actually dive. The decline is very downward spiraling. But if you keep authentic, it's very solid, and you can remain that reliable person that you want to be. Authenticity to you, critical. How do you feel?
Yeah, absolutely critical. And that's why I think that, I've gone from, particularly let's talk about social media. What I post, I do think about it, because I do think, what is my motivation behind posting this? Is there any motivation that's false? Am I trying to create a political agenda? Am I trying to create a social agenda? Am I trying to be, am I trying to call someone out, be mean to someone? Is there anything around that motivation? So I really actually think through the motivation of why I'm doing it and what I'm doing. And sometimes, talk about the LinkedIn platform, sometimes those motivations are purely work focused. We are, as PWC, we are looking to create a profile in the mining sector around having the ability to do operational intelligence. So I will post around that because I want that to be known that's
where you're going.
That's there. But if I think about LinkedIn, I don't want to go and put a silly post around, having brekkie with the family and there's full of love, if that's not the case.
No, that's right.
Yeah.
So just concluding is, can you share what challenges are facing the Brad Cuff in the future, personally and also professionally?
Yeah, so look, a good one. I'll take on the connector one because you've spoken about that a bit. I am a prolific connector. I do it, enjoy it, and I absolutely love seeing the benefits that come from that. But it can drain you, and it actually can take a lot of time from who you are and where I am. So I'm constantly, and I do this on a yearly basis. I almost kind of sit back and I review, how many friends do I have? How many connections do I have? How many people am I talking to? What am I doing? So the biggest challenge for me is overcommitment. I commit to too many things, and that overcommitment reduces balance. So the challenge for me is ensuring that I keep being a connector, but don't overcommit to too many things and too many people. So that's one.
Yep.
Look, from a professional one, moving as a partner into PWC, it is a very, very, very different role that I've ever played. Being a partner at PWC, you're not an employee, you're a part owner of the business. We have a massive accountability around everything we say and do and sign. We are the number one brand in the Big Four globally and in Australia, not only from a consulting perspective, but also from a tax and audit perspective. As an organisation, as partners in the organisation, we are informing the Australian government on tax reform. That's a big, huge responsibility. We're working with the Banking Commission, huge responsibility. So the challenge for that is, how do I continue to grow as a person, take on that responsibility, and continue to give back to society and others?
And last question, what advice would you give the 15-year-old Brad Cuff succinctly, looking back through your career?
Take the opportunities, be more consistent and patient.
Fantastic. Now, before we finish up, Brad Cuff, I've got two things for you today. One is my special What Your Focus On Grows, which you've done really well, the By George water bottle, which I know you will love. I can see that sitting on your desk.
Thank you, I can see that, yes. That can go on my desk.
But more so, this one here is a special book that I found, and more about, in congratulations for making a partner. And this is from By George, and well done, Brad.
Thank you very much, Lukey.
All right.
That's fantastic.
Super Connector. It's a brilliant book.
Is that what you think I am? And it's even signed.
It's even signed.
So, thank you very much, Luke.
Brad Cuff, PWC partner, thank you for participating in a By George interview. See you later, folks. Till next time.